Hello, America. How we doing today? James Duncan with LA Survivor. LA Survivor is my channel, and I'm also doing this new channel, which is called We the People. It's a independent journalist channel. So I'm doing this independent journalist channel to get the word out what the media won't report on or don't want the public to know, because they always want to drive with a certain narrative. So there's always going to be something, a part of the story that they tell, but they don't tell the certain parts of it. That way they can, say, just recently this girl got murdered on a bus in North Carolina. So they edit certain parts out to make it look like, try to make it look like, well, it wasn't fully the criminal's fault, because of society, whatever. He had mental health or whatever. They try to make excuses for these criminals, and it's not working for them anymore, because there's no excuse to blatantly just kill somebody for no reason. Doesn't matter what the color of their skin is, or what their ethnicity is, or their religion, or who they are, or where they come from. It doesn't give. If you have a mental illness, get it taken care of. But that doesn't excuse you, and that doesn't give you the right to go and kill somebody. You know, especially if you're killing them because of the color of their skin. You know, now, I believe in what Martin Luther King said. That we should judge people by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. I believe that full-heartedly, and I grew up, learning that and believing that and applying that. Like, judge people by their character, by who they are and what they do. What this guy did, nobody's judging this guy because he's black, but the fact of the matter is they left, and these people, these organizations want to freaking protect the criminal. Act like, oh, give excuses for the criminal, instead of seeing, hey, he killed somebody. No, that is not right. We need to stop the killing in America. Doesn't matter who it's against. And especially if, with this, like, racial violence, white on black, black on white, or whatever, Latino on black, or Asians on black, or Asians on Asians, or Asians on Latino. See, like, once you get into a big, I live in Los Angeles, so I see all this stuff, you know what I mean? So they only want to emphasize in the media, though, like it's only white versus black, black versus white, but it's not, because a lot of blacks and Asians go after each other. A lot of blacks and Latinos have beef, and then Latinos and Asians and Asians and Asians, and then the Armenians, and then the freaking Indians, and like there's everybody around here, and then the Europeans, they want a stake in the freaking city as well, so you got all these organizations, but the media, they want to play it like it's just black and white or whatever, but that's not the reality of it, you know what I mean? Like, you can say what you want, but at the end of the day, we're all people trying to achieve the same thing, man. We just need to we leave well enough alone and stop with this, racial violence between our different races, because it's not helping anybody. It's not helping blacks. It's not helping whites. It's not helping Asians. It's not helping anybody. It's just causing more harm and hurt and anger, and just causing people more of a rift. And that's what they want, because they know that if we truly become united together and squash, most of us are united. All the people that voted for Donald Trump in this recent past election, those are all the true Americans who are united. because we don't want the left wing ideologies. We don't want defund the police. We don't want all this stuff pushed on us, because that's not who we are in America. We are independent people. We are free. We want to remain free. We may have not had free markets, but we're trying to reclaim our free society, our free markets, and a safe society again. And the left is trying to keep us from doing that because they've had control for so freaking long. They don't want to lose their control. All these deep blue states and cities, they have these super majorities, and they don't want to lose their super majorities. That's why they opened the border. They allowed all these illegal immigrants to come in, ignoring the laws, and ignoring the law is breaking the law. Just because you're the president or whoever doesn't mean you can ignore the law. You know what I mean? And, Donald Trump, he got into that hot water too. But he got himself out. You know what I mean? Well, he started to, but then he didn't. But Joe Biden, he just didn't care. He opened the border. He let all this evil stuff happen. And they released COVID, on the world and killed half of the people in the world. And that wasn't just a random thing either. That was engineered. That was all planned. You know what I mean? As crazy as it sounds, it was. That's why they kept giving them the runaround. That's why they kept questioning Fauci on the vaccinations and stuff. Because it was a mixture of the COVID virus with the vaccine. Whatever was in the vaccine mixed with the COVID, and that's how a lot of people ended up dying. And they try to bury that information. That's why I'm making this video today, to bring you the truth. You may not believe it or not, it is the truth. It is that not your truth, not my truth, but the absolute truth. Okay? I know several people in the military, in the CIA, in there that know what's going on, that know the real thing is going on. Plus, I know a guy that I met when I was doing ballet that worked at the Roosevelt Hotel in New York when they started sending the illegal immigrants up there to that hotel. He worked there before it started. And it was a beautiful hotel. And then when they started shipping the illegals up there, they started getting up in there and they just took it over and just ruined the whole freaking hotel. Like the Roosevelt Hotel is one of the most prestigious hotels of New York. It's one of them like high scale hotels. And they ruined it. All for their agenda. Also, the Democrats can keep their super majorities in these blue cities and states. Like New York, Chicago, LA, San Francisco, DC, because they don't want to give up their power. And when that's not right, because it's supposed to be equal powers between the Republicans, Democrats, and Democrats. It's not just supposed to be all Republicans for one state, like that's what we need to change. We need to break these super majorities. We need to break these deep blue states and make them blue-red again. Because if we don't, then we're going to lose our country. The price of freedom is high. It always has been. But it's higher now than it's ever been. Because half of the country is still MAGA, American patriots, and the other half is leaning towards socialism because they've been so brainwashed and seduced by the left that they believe that socialism is the solution for America. But they don't realize what happens during socialism. We lose our freedoms. We lose ownership of our houses, our cars. You don't own a business. You don't own anything. You have no rights. You have no right to protest. You have no freedom of speech. You have no freedom of religion. You have no You, what they will tell you, you do. What they want you to think, you think. You're basically a robot, a puppet, you know. And this was played out in Cuba, Venezuela, Russia. All those places had socialism, and their countries nearly collapsed over it because they had food shortages that killed many people. A lot of people died unnecessarily, and socialism always leads to communism. It's just a fact. And if you can't handle the facts, too bad, because the facts is the facts, and the facts overrule the false narratives and ideologies and theories and beliefs. Theories, at the end of the day, are still theories. Facts are facts with data backing it up and evidence and research, you know, and drawing conclusions and all that, you know. Like, you know, anyway, all this stuff was designed by the left so they can keep the supermajority. That's why they cheated in the 2020 election. They rigged it so Joe Biden would win. And then once Joe Biden got in there, they treated him straight like a puppet the whole freaking time. He was going during the whole race. He was already going during the race. And once they got him in there, they took away his power and gave it to the deep state. All these judges, all these groups, all these people who are surrounding Donald Trump, and the person who had the auto pen, you know, was signing pardons to all these people so then they wouldn't get in trouble for the treason and all the stuff that they did to our country, you know. But it's coming out now. Everything that I've just said, like, they rigged the 2020 election, they did the Russian hoax against Trump. That was false. That was all set up by Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, the head of the FBI, and the head of the CIA. All of them did that. And then when you got Fauci in there, and then they released the freaking COVID, because, come on, think about it. If they didn't release it on purpose, like, they would not just, something like that doesn't just release by accident. That is a secured, highly secured building, lab building, and something just leaks out of it? No. They got somebody infected with their virus, and then they got out and they spread it, and then they got it over here and spread it to the whole world. That's how it happened. And then they said, "Oh, we need a vaccine for this. We gotta make a vaccine." So they made the vaccine real quick, not even testing it or nothing. And then they said, "Oh, here it is. Just trust the science. Trust the data. Trust the science." And then what happened? A lot of people died. They didn't just die from COVID, but then when they tried to get vaccinated, they died between the mixture of COVID and the vaccine. That was the bioweapon that they released on the world to try to establish this centralized global government that they were planning, you know, where, like, you know, majority of the world of the governments of the world would go socialist, so then, like, they could rule, you know what I mean? And the Democrat left, they would be like part of it, the elites that control, you know, a lot of the big stuff, you know, but they don't control us. But that's the thing, they want to control us. That's why they do all this, because the American people chose Donald Trump in 2016, not Hillary Clinton. That's why they started going after Donald Trump, and they're starting to go after us. And they're doing all this stuff like defund the police. And then when, you know, when they rigged the 2020 election, like, they were trying to do like, oh, defund the police. Like, they can't fully defund the police. They're just very low funded. You know what I mean? And these are big cities. Like, they need at least half of the population police, or more police than the population, in my opinion, to thoroughly actually like keep the peace and chaos from boiling over in these big cities, because all this stuff has been going on for too long, man. And the most people that are hurting are people in our minorities, people in Black and Latino and Asian communities. They're the ones hurting. People who are not documented, but here they may not be committing crimes. They might be just working a job, trying to start a business, trying to, get somewhere in their life and make something better for themselves, but they can't because they have these guys, robbing them or taking advantage of them, and they can't call nobody because, they're illegal and stuff. And then there's black people getting killed in Chicago, left and right, and they're not saying nothing about it because they're trying to say that crime is down, and it's not. It's never been down. They just lie and manipulate the numbers, but the people that they say they're trying to help are getting hurt the most. And that's what's messed up about it. And the left-wing Democrats try to say that they care about the people, that they're for minorities, that they're going to promise you the world, but all they're doing is just lip service and acting so they can get your vote and your money. And then once they got your vote and the money and they're elected, they're like, oh, screw you. I'm doing what I want to do. It's not about you. It's about me. You already did what you did. You voted me in there. So now why do I have to do something for you? They don't care about us. There's some people on the right that don't care about us. The rhinos and stuff that want to keep it status quo. But Donald Trump is, that's the thing, is like the will of the people was heard. When we voted for Donald Trump the second time, we wanted Donald Trump back because most people could see that Kamala Harris was fake and all that was staged. That's how they wanted, that's how the Democrats want the governance of America to be. One big act. So like there's the president, but he's not really running the show. It's the deep state and everybody around him. He's just the face, and then we would never really have all this freedom. That's what like the Matrix and all these movies that we've been trying to tell us. Like the Democrat Party is just a big political machine that keeps itself going. That's all it does. It doesn't do anything for the world. It doesn't do anything for America. Like the only reason why they promote these things like climate change and these like virtuous things that sound good, but then they don't put any practical like science or practical explanation or way to solve something or get something done. They just talk around the issue, like Gavin Newsom does with the homeless in California, like Kevin Bass does with all this stuff that's going on with ICE and the raids. Like these people are just going after the criminals who Joe Biden and Kamala Harris let into our country. And why is that wrong? Because if you don't have law and order, you don't have a country. Do we want to have a country or do we not want to have a country? I think we want to have a country where we can be free to protest and to worship whatever God we want to worship. You can practice Islam. You can practice Judaism. You can practice Buddhism. You can practice Christianity. But all that goes away if you vote for socialism and communism. And I can't tell anybody how to vote either way. All I'm trying to do is wake people up in America to see what's going on. Remember in the Matrix, they had the two pills, the red pill and the blue pill. Why on earth would the pills that Neo took in the very beginning, before he got out of the Matrix. He could have stayed in with the blue pill or get out with the red pill. You know what I mean? And people just think that's just something for the movie, but no, that has a deep meaning for the Democrats and the Republicans. Are you going to stay in the fairyland world that the Democrats want? Or are you going to be in the reality world, common sense, and law and order, truth and justice, and the real moral values of America? You know, that's what that movie is telling us, you know? And a lot of these movies are saying that, like the Infinity War, Marvel's Avengers Infinity War, and Endgame. Both those movies were telling us what was going to happen about the virus, the COVID. Think about it. He got the glove, he snapped his fingers, and half the universe died, was gone, wiped out of existence. The COVID virus spread very fast. That was probably the fastest any virus has spread globally. So you know it was weaponized. That's how you know it was weaponized, by the fast that it spread. You know, and you know, people were traveling, going back and forth, and half the people on the planet died because of the vaccine and the virus. Okay? And then they tried to cover it up. You know, I mean, if it wasn't staged, if it was natural, why not just tell the truth about it? If it was natural, why try to remember all the different things they were trying to come up with up to how it started or how it happened? You know, that right there is, you know, they weren't lying, they weren't being honest. You know, even the Chinese party and the Chinese government, you know, it's like they're trying to protect them. No more protecting these people, these monsters. I don't care if it's China, North Korea, Russia. They don't have no freaking authority or governance over me or what I do. Okay, I'm an American in America. Okay, not only that, this is my God-given right. Okay, God created me. They didn't create me. They're just people, just like anybody else, and they're gonna die, just like anybody else. And when they do die, they're only gonna, all their accomplishments are going to be is death, destruction, chaos, and murder. That is it. For the leaders of China, Russia, North Korea, Venezuela, all these communist countries, these Islamists, all these people who are just brutalizing and hurting their people for no reason. All of them are going to perish. And I can't pass judgment on them because that's not my place. That's for the Lord Almighty, the Creator, the actual Creator who created the universe and all mankind and everything. Okay? So, anyway, I just wanted to tell y'all this and kind of wake y'all up a little bit, you know. And but if you don't believe me, you can go on DOJ.org and look it up. A lot of this stuff that I said about everything is on there. You can look it up. It's all out in the open. This Tulsi Gabbard, she is the Secretary of Intelligence now, of National Intelligence. She uncovered all this. She's the one that freaking released the files, and she's the one that's doing the investigation to bring these corrupt traitors of our country to justice and punishment. So we don't have law and order, we don't have a country. And if the people at the highest level are going to be committing crimes and doing things, especially against Donald Trump, when Donald Trump didn't do anything, he was innocent of all of it. You know, all those indictments, all those accusations, and everything was false. They made it all up. They even tried to kill him twice, and he still didn't die. But that is a tough SOB. That's why I like Donald Trump. You're not going to stop him. You're not going to kill him. You want to know why? Because he's backed by the American people, by the government, by the Supreme Court, by everybody, and by God. There. So, whether you like him or not, he's here to stay, and we're going to make America great again, whether you like it or not. And all that means is more policing. Yes, we do need more policing. Yes, we do need to lock more criminals up who are killing people, who are raping women and raping kids, and just hurting families, hurting people for no reason. You know, the whole reason why they're letting them out is because it's political terrorism. You know, they give them a slap on the wrist and be like, oh, it's soft on crime. They know you can't be soft on crime because crime is going to go out of control. It's happened before, back in the 70s. You know, that's why crime was so bad in the 70s. Now, a lot of people don't like to talk about that, but it's true. And we need to start talking about the things that we don't like to talk about, because that's the only way we're going to get past them. You know, it's like, I'm not perfect. I'm just here making this video so, you know, I can get the word out, you know, do a little journalism, do a little research, which I have. You know, I'm not just saying this out of the blue. All this is stuff that I've been doing research on through books, through people that I've talked to, you know, and, you know, I don't just go by what's in the news. You know, I talk with several people, you know, about all of this, you know, and so I really pray for Charlie Kirk. Pray for Charlie Kirk. He got shot recently on campus in Utah. He's a good guy. He's started America First, and he's got his podcast and YouTube channel. Please pray for him. He got shot recently. And pray for the family of the Ukrainian girl who was murdered on that bus in North Carolina. That was horrific. And be praying for her. I'm praying for everybody who lost loved ones due to the illegal invasion of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They opened the border on purpose, and they let all these people in, and so many people died on that. So many babies were dying in the river, and people were getting trafficked. Women were getting sex trafficked. Kids were getting sex trafficked. And it's like, what is the cost, America? What is the cost? How many lives have to be lost? Huh? For their agenda. You know, we're tired of it. America is tired of it. We want change. We want to stop the killing. We want to stop the raping. We want to stop the mutilating of girls and boys. Stop the transgender madness. And stop the freaking racial madness. Stop all this freaking stupid ideology madness. And just let us live our lives. That's all we want. You know? Like, we can't help what happened in the past. Nobody can. But it doesn't help anything to keep, you know, going over the same things and not getting over it and moving on. It's like people don't want to move on over the white and black thing. And it's like, why not move on from that? We've come so far. We've gone so long. Like, whites and blacks are the oldest in this region. Indians, you know, like we've all been here since the 1700s, you know, and like all of us built this place. It wasn't just blacks, it wasn't just whites, it wasn't just Asians, it wasn't just Indians, it was all of us. All the people who cared enough to build the railroads. Now they always say the Chinese built the railroads, but they didn't own, it wasn't just them. It was Chinese, it was blacks, it was anybody like us, the working class, who needed a job at that time. You know, that's when the Transatlantic Union started, you know, Transatlantic Railroad, you know, and, you know, Santa Fe and all that. That's when all that started. You know, it was, you know, so we all had a hand in building this country, fighting for this country, fighting for our freedoms, fighting for our families, the right to live, the right to free ownership and free markets and capitalism and stuff. You know, it may not be, capitalism may not be perfect, but it's a lot better than the alternative. Okay, which you have no freedoms, you have no freedom of thought or nothing, you own nothing, and that's just not a society that I want to be a part of. That's not a message I want to support. I want to support freedom, liberty, and justice, and the right to be who you want to be and be who you are. You know, they always say we should have the right to be who we want to be. Well, why not have the right to be who we are, as we are? Well, how about that? The pride community, LGBTQ, whatever plus community. Why can't you just let people be who they are as they are? You know, you guys went in and try to tell kids, oh, you're not a boy, you're not a girl, you're supposed to be a boy. You're not a boy, you're supposed to be a girl. That's telling them right there that they're not good enough to be who they are as they are. Let a boy be a boy. Let a girl be a girl. Stop doing all that stuff to them. That is wrong. You are doing wrong. And if you don't see that, then you need to look in the mirror and look yourself, do some real soul searching. You know? Because that's a person that doesn't even have that's a soulless person that's going to tell a kid that they're not supposed to be who they are. Right there. And these judges, these activist judges, these Black Lives Matter groups, all these, you know, activist groups that they say, oh, we're for Black Lives Matter and we're for, you know, inequality and all this stuff. And it's all bullshit to further their own agenda. Think about it. All them people in the BLM and all them activists that are promoting all this stupid bullshit and perpetuating the race shit, they're the ones making money off of it. Not the people that are being hurt by these situations. They don't care nothing about the regular working class black people or Latinos or Asians or minorities as a whole. They don't care about them. They only bait them so then they can get their vote, so then they can get them on their side. They're brainwashing them. They manipulate them through these trigger words. Remember what happened? I don't know if you've seen, you know, Marvel's, you know, Winter Soldier. In the Marvel movies, in the MCU, the Winter Soldier, every time they would say those words, those were trigger words that would cause him to be in compliance and do what they wanted. Go kill somebody or cause destruction. And they do the same thing. The people on the left, and then the BLM, and then the LGBTQ, and the Intifada, and all these people, they do the same thing. They freaking keep saying that ICE is fascist, or that the police are the problem, that they're the problem, that no, the criminals are just the victims or whatever. No, they're not. Okay, they're criminals. Criminals are going to commit crime. It doesn't matter what you try to do. You're not going to teach them to be good. You're not going to teach them to be nice. Okay, I know this. I've been around them. I know them. Okay, I've been there in their presence, knowing these things. A killer doesn't care. He will go dormant for some time, biding his time, well, till he finds a perfect victim, like what just happened on the bus in North Carolina, and then boom, finds a victim, boom, done, dead. He killed him. That's how killers work. Okay? Yeah, he may have mental issues. Yes, he has mental issues. Okay? He has some serious issues. And she needs to be locked up. Okay? I know this. Okay? I've been around them. I've talked to them. I've conversated with them. I ate with them. You know, like killers, rapists, child molesters, worst of the worst. Even if it's a minor crime, you can't be light on minor crime either, because then that's going to lead to something bigger. It always does, and it's always happened. Like, same thing in the 70s. A lot of these cities were going corrupt and bankrupt, and they were collapsing because of all the out of control crime and everything. And then when Reagan got in there, he started cracking down on crime and doing the same exact thing, similar to what Donald Trump is doing. But Donald Trump, he's going more full force with it. And what you have to do that. Like, you cannot be light on crime. You cannot let people just riot and take over cities and keep destroying cities. Okay? That's just not the way we do it in America. And we need to stop this as a whole. Okay? It's not just whites. It's not just blacks. It's not just Latinos. Not just Asians or Armenians. It's all of us who live in this country. If you're born in this country, if you're a legal citizen of the country, then you are an American. And whether you like it or not, we're in this together. So we got to start growing up and becoming united. Because if we don't, then we will lose our country. And we will all be judged. This is James Duncan, LA Survivor, signing off.